Thank you, Matt, and welcome into the September 25th edition of the Coaches Show. I'm your host, Sports Director here at KSST, Ross Lubinsky, and joining me today is Defensive Coordinator Kurt McCain. Thank you so much for coming, Coach.
Yes, sir.
But we've got a great show for you today, talking all things college football coming right up after this, and also weekend review. And then we'll be talking the Wildcats football game last night in Ennis. So let's get right into the action, starting with the college football. We've got a lot of action today. I say we've got a lot of action, but it is a bit of a bye week for a lot of top 25 teams, as a number of teams are, as I just mentioned, on a bye. They will be taking the week off. But the first game worth mentioning is at 11 a.m., the battle for the Chancellor Spurs in the battle between the Texas Tech Red Raiders and the Texas Longhorns in Austin. Always a good yearly rivalry game between those two in-state rivals. Texas comes in the game 2-1 after shutting out Rice last weekend. And Texas Tech comes into the game 3-0 and looking to get a big win in Austin. So should be a great game to watch at 11 a.m. That game is on ABC for all you Texas football folk or Texas Tech football folk. Then we've got another rivalry game, another in-state rivalry at 11 a.m. The battle for the Iron Skillet, a battle between two DFW Metroplex schools, SMU and TCU, as the 3-0 Mustangs are traveling to Fort Worth and Amon G. Carter Stadium to take on the Horned Frogs. And SMU, again, starting the season 3-0. No doubt they've got their sights set on potentially an American Athletic Conference championship bid, and that would be no doubt the best they've done since prior to getting the death penalty in the 1980s. I believe that was 1986 or in 1985, but either way, kind of peripheral, maybe a team to watch this year is SMU as they continue to fight with a really good quarterback in Tanner Mordecai. Then moving over to 2:30 p.m., we've got another yearly rivalry game. Two former Southwestern Conference foes, now SEC foes, and the Texas A&M Aggies and the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. This game is always hot, and it almost always comes down to late in the game. And unfortunately, the Arkansas Razorbacks have yet to beat the A&M Aggies since the Aggies joined the SEC in 2012. But they'll hope to reverse those fortunes today when those two teams play at Jerry World AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, as former Arkansas Razorback and player Jerry Jones was a member of the 1960s national champion Arkansas Razorbacks team. So he's happy to host the Razorbacks at AT&T Stadium, but A&M comes in the game number 7 overall and Arkansas number 16, so that should be a very, very good game. And again, the Razorbacks will try to get the first win versus the Aggies since the Aggies joined the SEC in 2012. That game will be at 2:30 p.m. on CBS. We've got some Big 12 action today between the Baylor Bears and the Iowa State Cyclones. Baylor comes in the game 3-0, hosting the 2-1 Cyclones. Iowa State comes into the game ranked 14 overall, and should be a very good game between the Cyclones, led by Matt Campbell, who no doubt will be looking to match their efforts last year in getting to the Big 12 championship, but also maybe hoping to top it by getting the first ever Big 12 championship for the Cyclones, which would be huge for the program. The Baylor Bears Iowa State Big 12 matchup is set to begin at 2:30 p.m. on Fox. Then 3 more games we've got time to mention are the Houston Cougars, who begin American Athletic Conference play when they host the Navy Midshipmen. A very good game between those two teams. Houston comes into the game 2-1, Navy reeling a bit at 0-2. But regardless, it should be a good game for Dana Holgorsen and the Cougars, as they'll be at home in Houston hosting the Navy Midshipmen at 6 p.m., and you can catch that game on ESPNU. 2 more games I've got time to mention are another Big 12 matchup between the number 4 ranked Oklahoma Sooners and the West Virginia Mountaineers. Like so many games I've mentioned, this yearly matchup always proves to be a very good one. Lots of explosive fireworks usually between these two teams, and would probably expect to see a bit more of that this Saturday or today when those two teams play tonight in Norman at 6:30 p.m. on ABC. And then last game I've got time to mention for college football are the UNT Mean Green traveling out to Louisiana to take on the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. Both teams come to the game 1-2 overall, and UNT no doubt trying to get their first win in Conference USA play today when they travel to Louisiana to take on the Bulldogs at 6 p.m. That's all things college football. But let's move over to the weekend review for Wildcat sports. volleyball on Tuesday was in Pine Tree and swept the Pine Tree Lady Pirates 3-0. It was a very good game. I was there doing a radio broadcast for the game, and the Lady Cats volleyball team just continues to find their footing and continues to build on the success that they've found, as they are already 3-1 in division play. And winning 3 of their 4 district contests, with their only loss in district play being their second district game, a 5-set classic versus the Texas High Lady Tigers on September 14th. But the Lady Cats volleyball team yesterday enjoyed one of their 2 byes in district play. And coming up on Tuesday, they'll be back on the road when they travel to Hallsville to take on an always tough Lady Cat Hallsville team. So should be a good contest between 2 stalwarts in District 15 5A in volleyball. But moving over to cross country, the first ever Wildcat Invitational is being held right now at the SSISD Athletic Complex. Coach Ross Hicks was very excited, and I've talked to him a number of times leading up to the meet today. And he's very excited. He's been talking about it for a month now, about how excited he was to be able to host a Sulphur Springs Invitational, again, the first ever for Wildcat Cross Country. And again, it is currently underway with races started at 8 a.m. And if you've got no plans and you really want to go support your Wildcats and Lady Cats, hop on over to the SSISD Athletic Complex and go cheer on the cross country team. And Wildcat Team Tennis also had a bye this week, and much deserved after last week. They took on the Pine Tree Pirates, and it was a very, very good contest, as in previous years. The Wildcat Team Tennis has kind of struggled to win a lot of matches against a lot of the powerhouse teams that they play in District 15 5A, such as Longview, Texas High, Hallsville as well. But the Wildcat Team Tennis, led by Tony Martinez, have been able to win more and more matches versus these programs, as they were able to win a match versus Texas High, able to win 7 versus Longview, something that's not happened in years past, and then won the match versus Pine Tree on last Tuesday, not this previous Tuesday, but the Tuesday before that, versus Pine Tree to clinch a playoff spot, the number 4 seed. But it's not over yet for the Wildcat Team Tennis, as coming up next Tuesday, they will be in Hallsville, just like the Lady Cats volleyball team, taking on a tough Bobcat squad. We wish them nothing but the best, and Coach Martinez said if they can get the win versus Hallsville on Tuesday, they can clinch a number 3 spot in the playoffs, so wishing them nothing but the best going forward. And then last thing to mention for the weekend review is middle school football. The middle school football program, all 3 teams got wins and had a very good outing. Wildcats football team, the A team, won 14-6 versus Hallsville. And the C team and B team both got victories as well. C team won 6-0 versus Hallsville, and the B team had a big shutout versus the Bobcats, winning 28-0. So altogether, pretty good week for Sulphur Springs sports. And when we return, we'll be talking with Defensive Coordinator Kurt McCain, talking all things Wildcats football. And thank you for joining me back at the September 25th edition of the Coaches Show. Joining me today is Defensive Coordinator Kurt McCain. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So moving over to the Wildcat football game last night, a tough loss against the top 10 Lions team in Ennis.
Yeah, they were very athletic and have some very, very good players, and I thought our kids, battled and fought and played really hard.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And on the topic of your team coming out and playing hard, came out hot to start the game, forcing an efficient Lions offense to punt on their first drive of the game.
Yeah, our kids came out and they were excited and kind of stepped up to the challenge of playing another top 5 team in the state of Texas, and came out and played really, really hard, and made plays when we needed them on that first drive, and got 3 and out. And I was proud of them for going out and sticking it to them early.
Absolutely. And your team was able to force a good amount of third and mediums and third and long situations to put the defense in a position to get off the field.
We've got to be better at getting off. We've got to start making plays on third downs. We're just not deep enough to get our kids off the field and get them a break. We're not deep enough defensively to stay out there on those long drives, but to get them in those situations and have a chance. I'm proud of our kids. We just got to take advantage of those chances when we get them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And going back to the topic of deep, and obviously things like injuries and those types of things can't really be avoided. But I mentioned during the broadcast the sheer roster difference. I mean, and we talked about this with Coach Owens on Wednesday, that Ennis is one of those teams that just doesn't have a whole lot of two-way players, and Sulphur Springs the exact opposite. So to have a team that's quite literally twice the size, that obviously puts them at an advantage over the Wildcats. But,
yes, very much so.
But your unit was able to force the quarterback, Jackson Gilkey, out of the pocket on several occasions, not letting your team get beat deep. What have you liked that you've seen from your defensive line through 2 district games?
Kids play hard. Our defensive line, we're in an odd front, so a lot of times they're outnumbered. It's 5-on-3 or it's 6-on-3, and our kids battle and they fight and they're nasty, and I love the effort they're giving us right now up front.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And against a good offensive line that the Ennis Lions possess, a number of talented offensive linemen, but still able to get some pressure, which is good to see against a top 10 Lions team.
Absolutely.
And when we return from commercials, we'll continue to talk Wildcats defense with Kurt McCain. Welcome back to the September 25th edition of the Coaches Show, and joining me as Defensive Coordinator Kurt McCain, and we were just discussing Wildcat defense, as he is the defensive coordinator. And even though the Ennis Lions are a top 10 team in 5A Division II at number 4, according to Dave Campbell's Texas High School Football, as we mentioned before the commercial break, your defense never quit, continuing to fight in the second half.
Yeah, our kids, they don't know any better. they're just going to go out and they're going to play and give it what they got, and for as long as they got to go do it.
And Coach Owens talked about earlier this week about how methodical the Lions are on offense, and just a well-oiled machine, but they did manage to take a number of shots deep.
Yeah, they kind of changed some of their tendencies on us. Did some things that they hadn't been doing for the beginning part of the year, and kind of caught us off guard a little bit at times. But our kids, they just continue to fight and continue to get after it. But they're a very good football team.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And when a team changes tendencies on you like that, it can kind of just showcases, I guess, just how much preparation and just really how talented they are, that they could kind of just flip their whole scheme and still be successful. But I noticed a lot of edge blitzes from the Lions defense last night against the Wildcats offense. Yeah,
they've got some outside linebackers that are very, very active and really athletic, and it's hard to prepare for those kind of guys that we just, in our practice with our depth, that we can't give our offense that kind of look every week, and see it on a Friday night, to see the speed and athleticism of some of those guys is tough on those guys over there.
You're absolutely right. And going back to what you were saying about a talented defense, when I was doing my scouting for the Ennis Lion defense, just about the entirety of the defense was highlighted as being a player to watch, and so many prospects. So, yeah, a very talented Lions defense, and Coach Owen said just as much earlier this week, talking about that this is a team that knows their system, knows their role in the system, and it's just, like I said moments ago, just a well-oiled machine. But another issue the Wildcats faced last night was losing the penalty battle. A number of penalties that were to be called against the Lions early were waived off. In fact, 2 penalties on the Lions' second drive, and we were pretty amazed at those early wave of the flags.
It's the officials' interpretation of the rules. I try to focus on my job and worry about what I'm doing, and worry about our kids on defense and how we're playing and what we're doing. But at times it gets a little frustrating when you look out and even through all of that, you still notice the discrepancies that are happening. But we tell our kids on defense, if there's not a flag, there's not a penalty. And we get held a bunch up front. Our D linemen are good enough to force those offensive linemen to hold them light. We don't get those calls, so we just, you got to battle through it. You got to keep going, and we're never going to blame a game on an official. we've got to do better. We put it back on us. But sometimes it's hard when you go into different places, and you just got to battle through it and, just keep fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Both teams, I was very surprised. I commented on this in the radio broadcast last night, but both teams only combined for 5 drives in the second half, but the Wildcats offense did manage to outscore Ennis in the second half, 14-3.
Yeah, the second half kind of flew by. I think we had 2 drives, maybe 3 drives we defended in the second half. They came out, just ran the ball, quit throwing it deep on us, and just kind of maintained the clock a little bit. And our offense went out and made a couple plays here and there, and were able to punch the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, when we come back from a commercial break, we'll finish talking about the Ennis loss from last night and look ahead to what's next for the Wildcats. Welcome back to the September 25th edition of the Coaches Show, where we're joined today by Wildcats Defensive Coordinator Kurt McCain. We talked about the offense before commercial break, and while Coach Young's unit wasn't able to punch it in the end zone until late, as you mentioned before the commercial, they were able to make some plays, move the chains, and sustain drives in the second half.
Yeah, Sean Dial, I think he's each week getting better and better and better. Drew Hodges, offensive tackle, he's undersized there, but I think he's continuing to get better every week. The running backs, Malachi Rowland and J.J. Hall, are, they're small in stature, but, those kids fight. They get after it. And then, of course, Weston Fields made a big play on the fade ball. They're late in the fourth quarter, and Matthew threw a great ball to him. So, you see the positives, and we got to go back and we got to start building on those, and those guys played well there late in the game.
And you just mentioned this. One of the 2 touchdowns scored was a 56-yard bomb to Weston Fields. I was about to say the timing on the 9 route, but the timing on the fade route between Fields and Mitchell hasn't always been there, but they were able to connect last night for the explosive touchdown.
Yeah, he threw a great ball, caught him in stride. Weston did a good job of catching it with his hands and looking it in, and when you have that ability to throw the ball deep, it helps every other part of the game.
Absolutely. And then one of the touchdowns also was C.J. Williams, who continues to be a pretty pivotal role in this offense.
That guy does what he does. It's nice having him on our side. I love C.J. to death. He does a great job for us, and he's another one of those two-way guys that's come over and helped us, some defensively. But yeah, he's a ball player.
And then going back to the running backs before we move on, you mentioned the running backs J.J. Hall and Malachi Rowland. A number of times I felt like last night they would kind of get almost lost in the offensive line. Then about a second later, J.J. Hall or Malachi Rowland would just kind of shoot out and propel himself forward.
Yeah, they're little bitty dudes, but they got big hearts. It's the same thing looking at it from the field. I look up and I see O-lineman, D-lineman, and then all of a sudden they just kind of sneak out on you. But they're playing really hard. They're really tough kids for their size, and they give us all they got.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add regarding last night's loss in Ennis?
Our kids are playing hard. I think defensively we're getting better. Our defensive line, Nick Cantillo and Brighton Reuter and Carson Fitton, Matt Clark, the Kyron Court, those guys are, I think we're getting better every week. Our inside linebackers are, again, we're a little undersized with our inside backers with Griffin Crawford and Braden Morris, but, those guys they'll fight you till the end. They don't. Absolutely. Those 2 guys don't have any quit in them. It was good to have Bull back this week coming off that abdominal strain. Of course, he was still kind of limited. But it was really nice seeing him run around again for the first time in a couple of weeks. We could name every one of them and keep going on and on about what they do well, and we just got to put it all together. We got to figure out a way to put it together and come out with a win and give them a little confidence.
Absolutely. And Coach, you and the Wildcats have a bye next Friday before resuming action the following Friday against Royce City.
Yeah, this week, we plan on backing off kids a little bit, getting back to fundamentals, blocking, tackling, just the stuff you kind of get into a season and you kind of forget about when you're game planning a team each week. Chance to get some of our kids healthy. Matthew Sherman, who broke a finger early in the year, he'll get to start practicing again on Monday, so that's good. Anybody we can get back right now is a positive. Devin Franklin's out right now battling a concussion, and hopefully he can start his protocol this week and get back for Roy City. A few nicks, here and there on kids, and we get a little time off and get them well before we start the second half of the season.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Coach McCain.
Thank you very much.
And that'll do it for us here on the September 25th edition of the Coaches Show. I'm your host, Ross Lubinsky. Shooting video is Doug Haston, and working the station operation manager here at the station is Matt Jansen, filling in for James Terry. So thanks again so much, Coach McCain, for joining me today.
Thank you.
And that'll do it for us. Thanks so much for tuning in.